Let us move to the Midwest, James. This is where Purdue is. And yeah, let's get off your Purdue jokes because they did lose to Fairleigh Dickinson last year. They lost to a 16. The question now is, can they be like Virginia when they lost to UMBC and then came back and won the national title? I'm not sure that that's necessarily going to happen. Purdue has one of my favorites in terms of potential upset teams. They might see him.
You're riding with Montana State then?
Oh, go Bobcats. That's right. Me and the Duttons. No, but it's a school that used to have state in its title. They've removed the state recently. We got McNeese in this one. This is Will Wade's team. You know, we saw Will Wade at LSU. He's obviously a very good coach. NCAA stuff happened. He got fired. He's now at McNeese. McNeese is against Gonzaga in the 12-5 game. Other than New Mexico, Clemson, this feels like the most popular upset pick in this tournament.
Yeah, I came on here and told you on Friday that I was picking McNeese State no matter who they faced in that 5-12 game.
Still feeling good about it?
Then they drew Gonzaga, and I kind of went, oh, man, like if they're really going to make me do this. They're going to make me pick against Gonzaga in the first round. And I'm still going to go with it. I'm still going McNeese State. I think Shahada Wells, Will Wade, I think they've got everything it takes to beat this Gonzaga team, which doesn't have the high caliber wins. That's been the knock on them. Of course, this Gonzaga team, I think what's interesting is the computer numbers will tell you that this seeding is reasonable, that the 5 seed is okay for this Gonzaga team. However, if you look at where most people had them based on A, their resume, and B, just what they had or had not shown for most of the season, this is considered an overseeding by a lot of people. So you get potentially an overseeded team. While we love the history and the tradition of them, while we think that I thought that they were better than what some people describe them as a bubble team, I don't know if I can bridge the gap all the way to a 5 seed that is capable of taking down what I think is the most live 12 seed that I've seen in a bracket in a couple of years in McNeese State. So I think McNeese is the pick here. I'm still going with them and Will Wade to make it through that first round. And then they would get potentially a very interesting second round game there. The winner of that Kansas and Samford game.
Right. Highly imperfect Kansas with injuries. Like, we're not even sure they can get past Samford. And then McNeese or Gonzaga in round 2 does not bode well for Kansas.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Samford, I am very confident in this Kansas win here. I think that sitting out the Big 12 tournament for Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough is going to prove to be the correct decision. A lot of people questioned it at the time. I questioned it a little bit in terms of, you know, what does that really say? I get it if they're really injured, but it felt like they were just trying to get fully healthy. If they come out fully healthy, I think that this team could smash Samford. I don't think it will be particularly close just because it's a terrible matchup for Samford. A team that is a little bit undersized. They've got the speed. They want to play fast. Hunter Dickinson is just not going to let that happen at times. He's going to slow down the game. It's going to become a grind. And I don't know if they're equipped to stop him in any way if he's remotely healthy in this matchup. So I think Kansas gets through that one easier than even I would have projected they would get through the first round, easier than I would have projected most teams to get past Samford. But I think it's a good matchup for Kansas, so they'll be fresh and ready to go for either Gonzaga or McNeese there in that second round.
Now, let's go back to the top of this because, again, we saw Purdue lose to a 16 seed last year. There is a lot of question about, you know, is there a formula to beat Zach Edey and Purdue? You've mentioned a bunch of times the guard plays so much better this year. Braden Smith is so in such a better place than he was. But is there any chance that whoever comes out of the Utah State TCU game can knock off Purdue?
Yeah, I haven't really checked, and I should have done this already, but Braden Smith went down with an injury, and they kind of dismissed it. Seemed like he was sort of day-to-day, but I haven't gotten a real update on like what actually happened and how severe was it, because that's going to be huge for them. Seeing him go down in that game was just, I mean, it made my heart drop. I was like, oh no, This is the guy who I've been pitching and I've been confident in as this is why Purdue is not going to do the same thing this year. They're not going to be an early exit because Braden Smith is so much better at running the point guard spot, and then he suffers an injury. And I know he went back in the game, but sometimes those things,
Matt Painter said not to worry about it.
Flare back up when you get that adrenaline to drop. And so I just wonder, how healthy is he? Because if he's healthy, I think they can survive that first weekend with a relative ease. But if he's not, I think we end up in a little bit harder of a conversation.
Yeah, Matt Painter and Braden Smith after the game, for what it's worth, said it was a calf thing, not too bad, that he's going to be all right. So we'll see. But yeah, that's one of those. Again, you're so gun shy because you saw them lose to Fairleigh Dickinson. There is like you've seen them lose to Northwestern this year. They lost to Ohio State right after Ohio State fired the coach. And obviously, Jake Diebler got that job full time, so he did a really good job. But it does seem like if you have the right pieces, there's a formula to beating Purdue if Braden Smith isn't just raining threes on your head.
Yeah, blitz Zach Edey. That's it. Just blitz him and let the other four beat you. That's what you got to do if you want to beat Purdue here in the tournament.
So let us move down into the middle of this bracket. South Carolina and Oregon. Oregon, your bid thief, which they look like a little bit different team. N'Faly Dante, healthy, 12 of 12 from the field in the Pac-12 championship game. I mean, come on.
Yeah, this is this Oregon team. I love this Oregon team. I have felt so bad the last couple of years. This Oregon team has just been riddled with injuries. It has been brutal to watch Dana Altman try to get through it. I think they're down. They're under 10 scholarship players again. They've got, I think, 3 guys who are shut down with injuries for the rest of the season, no matter what happens. I mean, just it feels like over and over they just get hit with this injury bug, and you wonder when this team is talented. They've got the players. When is it going to come together? When are they going to get a healthy run? Well, it turns out once they got N'Faly Dante just a little bit healthy, they turned into a completely different team. So I think this is another team we talked about earlier, New Mexico not being a real 11 seed. Oregon, I think, is in that same category, albeit for completely different reasons. I really like them in this matchup because of what Dante brings. As long as he stays healthy, I think they can get through this first round matchup against South Carolina. Although South Carolina, man, that Lamont Paris, what he's done there, I don't think anything should be taken away from that. I think that they still have a chance in this game. I'm not saying by any means it's just a lock, but I'm going to ride with Oregon here. I do like what I saw from them in the Pac-12 tournament.
Yeah, we'll see if Michie Johnson and BJ Mack can lead the Gamecocks past the Ducks. But you're right, Oregon playing like a completely different team. So this is, I guess, teams from the state of South Carolina, the victim of a little bit misseeding going on here because they get tougher 6-11 matchups than anybody else. Meanwhile, you got Creighton sitting there as a 3 seed, but Creighton feels like a team that could make this a Final Four run, a very deep run. They can beat anybody here.
Yeah, you must be looking at my notes here because I love this Creighton team. Big fan of what Greg McDermott has there. I think that they're such a complete team. When you look at Ashworth up top, Baylor Shireman, who I predicted will be a breakout star in the NCAA tournament here. I think that his game is going to translate really well. I think it's something that fans are going to enjoy watching. His combination of shooting, rebounding, defense, effort, just everything he gives, I think is going to make him a guy that everyone enjoys watching throughout this tournament. They draw Akron in the first round. I think they'll be able to breeze through that. From there, it's South Carolina or Oregon. So I'm picking them to advance there. And then you look at Tennessee's got to get through on the bottom half of this bracket. We'll talk about it here, but they've got to get through St. Peter's, who Kentucky fans, can you imagine how happy Kentucky fans would be if St. Peter's can do it again? They might even forgive them.
Somebody else.
They might even forgive them if they're able to do that. And then the Texas, Virginia, or Colorado State in that second round for Tennessee. It's not an easy path.
Yeah, you got, if it's Texas, you've got the Rick Barnes Bowl. Yep. You've got, the team that fired Rick Barnes that allowed him, and Rick Barnes, just a very it's just such a strange career. Like all orange, Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, and kind of the same knock everywhere he goes that he just can't seem to get it done in March. This Tennessee team seems capable of putting a deep run together. It's old. It's got a very dynamic scorer in Dalton Connect, who could be one of the stars of the tournament. People are going to love watching him play. Now, he doesn't play a ton of defense, but everybody else does. So, and I believe Zakai Ziegler's brother plays for St. Peter's. And Zakai Ziegler, the Tennessee point guard, his other offer was St. Peter's.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting run for Tennessee. I really like this team. We've talked about it. What's different about this team? But they gave their fans an absolute heart attack in the SEC tournament when the offense did not show up. When
they looked terrible against Mississippi State. Terrible.
Yeah, when Connect had his worst offensive performance of the season, it looked like the Tennessee team that everyone worried about early on, that everyone kind of worries about when Rick Barnes gets to the postseason. The defense was fine, but the offense was a no-show, completely absent from the floor. It's going to be scary for Tennessee fans. They're going to have a little bit of PTSD, but Tennessee, I think, gets past St. Peter's. They get into that second round. If I am Tennessee, the only thing that I am hoping, the one thing that I want out of this tournament is to avoid Virginia. I don't know if Virginia can beat Colorado State, because I think Colorado State probably a better basketball team. But if they somehow do, if Tony Bennett's able to work some magic, and then he's able to knock off Texas, I think that Tennessee is in serious trouble, because he's right there on the screen. Ryan Dunn is the best defender in college basketball. And you put him on Dalton Connect, watch what this Tennessee offense does, because I would be very scared if I was a Tennessee fan of what the offense looks like when Ryan Dunn is guarding Dalton Connect, because he's an NBA level defender already.
If Tennessee goes out in the second round because they lost a 46-44 game to Virginia, it's like every Rick Barnes meme come to life.
I know that's the scary side, but now I'll cheer you up and I'll tell you, as long as Virginia, who has no business getting through to that point in the tournament, as long as they don't get there, I like Tennessee's path here. I think that they can knock off Texas. I think they advance to that round. I think they'd have a really fun matchup against Creighton. And then from there, we talked about it, Purdue's going to have to prove it on that other side of the bracket. So if you can somehow avoid Purdue, I don't think you're particularly scared of Kansas. We're already talking about Gonzaga potentially losing to a 12 seed. So who else on that other side of the bracket are you just terrified of in your way of a Final Four run? So there is some light at the end of the tunnel, Tennessee fans, but that Virginia game, you're going to have to sweat out. Hopefully, for their sake, Virginia gets knocked out in the first four, but that would be an incredible matchup from a defensive standpoint. If you like offense, that's not your game to watch.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.